You're about to watch a clip from the Videomaker podcast. If you want to see the whole episode, click the link in the description. Okay, so moving on to like more timely skills. So everyone knows what's happening with the virus right now. So a lot of people are stuck indoors, either alone or with their family or in small offices. Videomaker is in rural California, and our team is small, so we're here at the office, but still we're kind of stuck indoors. So let's talk about a few topics where, this information might be helpful for people who are in the video industry who are in this situation. So first off, let's talk about skills that you can work on from your desk.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to be, I just see this as a great opportunity for people to work on their art. If you have time to think, or you are not granted the same, distractions that you normally would, it's a good time to learn your craft better. And so these are, the little things that you can do to make it so once we get back out to normal life, and it will happen. Normal life is going to happen. We don't know how long until normal life is again, but we will, and we can stay positive about that. And so, why not improve your skills if you have the time to do it? And, I just think about like if those people that are, you have to shelter in place and, whatever. I think of if I had to do that, well, I have a whole list of things that need to be done at my house. And I really...
You mean like clean out the gutters kind of stuff?
Yeah, well, or just any old thing. Like I have a couple guitars I'm building at home. Mm-hmm. And, it's a good chance to, I can focus on that because I'm not going on a trip somewhere. I'm not going to go to a party or to a concert or whatever you. So, it's a time to focus inward a little bit on our personal growth. So with that said, what do you think is your first tip for those that are finding themselves with more time than they are used to?
Okay, so there's two categories here, which is 1, learn a new skill, 2, be productive and do work that you can capitalize on later, or 3, do something where both of those things come into play. So primarily I'm thinking about After Effects. Like everyone wants to learn After Effects, or they want to be better at After Effects.
Yeah.
So I would say that's the first thing. If you don't know After Effects, but you have access... By the way, everyone now has access to After Effects because Adobe is giving it away for the next 2 months.
Yeah, well, I don't know the details, but I think it might be those that have subscriptions are getting 2 months free.
Oh, is that...
I'm not sure
if
it's you don't have it or not. We should look into it. But a lot of companies are giving software for free because people are going to be pent up and needing to use it. I think After Effects, so I started using After Effects, and the very first thing I ever learned was how to move a red square from the far left of the screen to the far right of the screen and to keyframe it. And that, you end up in basic world for a while, just getting to understand keyframes and what things you have control over, which in After Effects is a lot. But one of the biggest breakthroughs for me actually came through going through other people's projects. Now, for me at that time, it wasn't going through someone I didn't know. It was a producer I did know that I was working on a project that I was amending or changing or something for somebody else. But you can do this at home because there are so many After Effects templates and things out there, free, really low price, for you just to dive in and figure out how they work. It reminds me when I was a kid that I liked taking things apart, but I didn't like putting them back together. You go find something else you don't necessarily have to try to find and make something from it. Just go in there and try to pull away a couple takeaways from how they're doing it. Because in After Effects is one of those things where there are so many different ways to do the same thing. And the outcome might be somewhat the same, or the outcome might be slightly different, but you have to go on completely different paths to get there. And that there isn't necessarily a right or wrong way. It's the creative palette, but that learning those extra tools, they're gonna take your next creative endeavor to the next level. You're gonna be able to apply those little things. I remember watching Creative Cow stuff with Andrew Kramer, and he was showing how to make some words turn into sand and blow away. But I wasn't going to do that. And quite frankly, if I did it, it just seemed like it was a rip-off of this really popular tutorial. But there's going to be all sorts of little things within how to do that you're going to learn. I mean, I remember that was where I learned Alpha Channel to be able to cut out something else. So it was like, they had some words they wanted to turn to sand and then to blow away. They Alpha Channeled an image of sand so that the word was actually sand, and then the effect to actually take away everything. And so just that little bit, I don't have to, I could use that so many different ways, but trying to find those little tools that will help you. I always think of it as like my tool, tool belt. Yeah, words are hard for me today. And it's like, okay, here's where my hammer is, here's where my pliers are, here's where my nails are, whatever. Those are just places to go to when you need them. They're not necessarily something you're going to apply all the way. I mean, if you're doing plumbing, you're not going to use your hammer, those kinds of things. But there might be a time where you need to loosen a nut. I don't know.
Yeah, so you said you're never going to do that, and I assume you mean you're never going to actually use the sand blowing away graphic.
Yeah, you should do it if you want to learn it.
Tutorial.
Yeah, totally, doing the tutorial, but like, I think of more of like the practical use of that knowledge is the thing that I always felt was important. Yeah, I'm making this thing that I'm never going to have an application for, like the final product. Like, making movie titles. I don't make movies, so why would I ever make movie titles? But I am going to use graphics in the next video I make, so I might have some takeaways from making credits or what have you. And those rudimentary things are sometimes the really hard things to find help with. I'm trying to do this little thing, and it'll be just those aha moments of like when you deconstruct somebody else's thing to doing it with. And I just like the idea of deconstructing because you don't have to have a application for it. I have a hard time a lot of times learning something new if I don't have something to do it with. Like, I don't have a project that needs that. So it's like, if I don't have a need to apply this knowledge, I'm never going to, it seems useless to go down that road. But if you're just going, I just want to pull things apart to see how they work, that's really helpful. And especially when you're talking about like when I was a kid, it was how I learned how things worked. Now, it takes more skill to go and put that thing back together, and sometimes it's a lot harder to do that than it is to take it apart. But there's a lot to learn from that. That would be one of my big things: is go find a project that has some cool stuff in it, that is something you want to learn how to make, and get that project and just dissect it, and then try to do something cool with it. Hopefully, if you just have time, then just find some way of using it. I remember making scenes when I was trying to just figure out how to make a fully animated scene without any, nothing but the internet and pictures, right? And be able to pull it apart. And I made a little plane fly through fog, and then lightning hit it and it crashed. And I did that all, but it was, I don't even know where it is. I don't even know if I ever finally rendered it, but I learned all sorts of things. I learned how lightning worked. I learned how to generate fog, how to line up sound effects in After Effects if you need to do it from there, and all those different little things. So I think it can be really helpful just to go and just do it for the fun. Do it, do it for the sake of like, I know my wife finds comfort in coloring. So like an adult coloring book, you're doing it. What are you doing it for? You're just going to throw this thing away. Yeah, but like, it was calming. It was something to do. It was something to get my mind off of things. And I know right now I could welcome any distraction from the world right now.
It's like that reminds me of those Zen sand paintings.
Or Zen garden or whatever.
They paint this.
Oh, sand mandalas.
Is that what it's called? Yeah, they do this painting with sand. They just like use colored sand. They create art, and then it's done. When it's done, they just
they push it in. They wash it into the river.
Yeah,
and it's just all sand. Yeah, sand mandalas. I've seen a few made.
They did one at the university here a few years ago.
Yeah, they did. It was in early 2000. I think I saw one at Butte College, and it was just really amazing because they'd spent like 5 days working on this really meticulous thing just to go over to the creek and just push all the sand into the water.
Yep.
The only thing left would be the experience, and I can maybe pictures, but
it's part of the Buddhist philosophy of living in the moment, right?
Yeah, I guess that's true.
So you touched on a couple things. So one is the notion of like doing something even though you have no immediate need for it. Like that's kind of what science is all about, right? Like a lot of times, I don't know if you ever listen to podcasts or watch, YouTube videos.
I don't believe in podcasts.
You should get into this podcasting thing.
Yeah.
No, but you often hear like this interview with a scientist and they're just talking about this thing that they're working on. And then the interviewer says, well, how is that going to affect our daily lives? And the scientist will go, I don't know.
Yeah.
And it's like
we're trying to figure that out.
Yeah, exactly. So sometimes you'll learn something where there doesn't seem to be an immediate impact or immediate use for it. And then as time goes on and other things enter your world or your life, you suddenly can draw upon these skills that you learned way back, or this knowledge that you gained, during a time where you thought that it actually was not that useful.
Yeah.
But the second thing is, I think this idea that, make something to test your skills or to learn new skills. The other fact that I was referring to at the beginning was do something that's going to test your skills while also building your library of assets for future use.
Oh, totally.
So if you can kill two birds with one stone here, this is what you want to do. So if you can find a tutorial that makes a graphic that you think you'll use someday, even if you're not going to use it right away, it's worth going through the process. You'll learn how to make this thing. And then when you're done, you take that and you put it into a folder and you label it. So something like, awesome sand lower third. And sometimes you need a lower third, and boom, you got one there. You just replace the text, and it's ready to go. And you can develop a library of assets that you can use later. Or, frankly, if it turns out that you're never going to use it, you could sell them all, put them up on the stock sites.
As long as you didn't start with somebody else's project. But,
yeah, that's true. You don't want to rip it off. At the same time, if you can modify, if you can do something to add your own flavor to it, you can re-upload it somewhere else where a similar graphic doesn't exist.
Yeah, and the thing is, that's a really great example of. I remember doing this with lower thirds because if you make any video that's outside of narrative work, you can use lower thirds a lot. You got to identify people, and sometimes they can be simple and they don't need to be anything but words on the page or on the screen. But those animated ones. Stylistically, you just have to choose what they might go into, or just find an aesthetic that you like. The font, the colors, those can all change easily. That's the nice thing about After Effects. You can make a thing and really augment all of the things that make it that thing and make it uniquely look its own. And you don't need to pick the font or the colors. You just have to pick a font and some colors to work with, and then augment them to fit what you need. And making a graphic package for a video or a project that you're making is just so nice to just be able to go, oh, no, I have a lower third for this. I don't have to spend any time to make it. It's already going to fit. I'm just going to customize it to what we're doing, and I can just keep moving on. And man, I love editing stuff that I have all the assets for. So when I'm editing, all I'm doing is assembling, because you get to go from blank page to fully completed thing, and it feels so good. And if it just comes together like an assembly, like these are just parts you're putting together, man, there's just a lot of, it just feels really good when you're all done, because you went from nothing to this completed thing that has some merit. And I think, if we're at home, some are going to be working, but others might not be working at all. Getting that fulfillment, that feeling, those are the things that we're going to have to figure out how to get when we don't have those built into our jobs. I know for me, I definitely need these short rewards to feel good about what I spent my day doing. Mm-hmm. And so I think those things can really pay off just in the mental health side of it, let alone what you get to take away from it.
Yeah. So actually we've been talking about After Effects mainly, but another one that I'll point to. So if you already know After Effects or you just don't have any interest in After Effects, one that I would really recommend is music production.
Yeah.
Music production is not in the video world for the most part. Yeah. I mean, there are
we sequence stuff and that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. But a while back, I got into this just for a weekend or something. I just got, was curious. I downloaded GarageBand, which is free.
Yeah.
And the whole library of stuff. Yep. And then I also got, what the heck is it called? Fruity Loops.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever heard? Okay, so Fruity Loops is it's a pro level music production software. Okay. And I got in there, I downloaded all the loops, and I can tell you that, man, I don't know anything about music, but I actually could make something basic, like a simple underbed for an underscore for video in this little looping software. And so diving in there and learning even those kinds of things, if you can build your library of simple, I'm going to admit that this is simple stuff, basic stuff. You can build yourself a small library of music that, you can save yourself $50 in the future by not having to, buy something online.
Well, or the big benefit to making your own music is that it not only is it unique, but it fits your production. Hopefully, if you did it right, it fits the production. So
there's a lot of electronic music, by the way, if you go this route, because the loops sound best when they're kind of these artificial things.
Yeah, well, I use a program called PreSonus Studio One, and it's got built-in instruments as well, from drums, from like actually
drums sound good.
Recorded drums, which are difficult to record on your own. Getting drums to sound professional, recording an acoustic drum set is not an easy feat. So it's a great place for people that, like if you're not a drummer, you're not going to find a good drummer and be able to record nice to do that kind of thing. But regardless, that custom audio is really going to fit the mood. You're gonna be able to get that more depth from your scene if you are composing to it. Anybody, even if you can buy any music and you could try to make things happen at different crescendos of that music, but being able to do something with doing something that cues that's actually timed to your scene, it really will make a huge impact. A good friend of mine, Brandon Vetter, is a documentarian, and he has a guy named Sean Galloway do his scoring for his documentaries, and the guy's really an ambient musician. Like, he makes ambient music, and so it's drones with some weird sounds. He records stuff and makes them into things or whatever. But he very well could go find just a bunch of music beds to fit into things. But the difference between having, now this guy's a great musician and everything, but having someone doing that intentionally and connected directly to the scene's emotion and feel, you can just add a lot to a scene. One other thing, just before we move on, is building up your sound effect library. There's so many. Making things that you didn't go to. This is the stuff that when at the TV station, when we were slow, we cleaned, and then we went and found things that we could use in our next production. So maybe it's a zing, maybe it's a transition sound, whatever it is. It's good to have a nice library, nice to have them labeled, and how cool it'd be just to be able to pull in a folder of sound effects that has 80% of what you need at any given time, just right at your fingertips. I have a folder like that I've been building for a long time, different backgrounds and all that kind of thing. And to have the time to actually go looking for it and bringing in those things and having them and having a nice organized set of things can be, they really can take your production to the next level with so much ease.
And you will learn new skills too.
Oh, absolutely.
In the process.
Well, honestly, the skill of finding sound effects.
Yeah, let alone making them, but finding them.
Like finding them, it's difficult. Like even if you paid for a library that was sound effects, 80% of them are garbage or so specific that they won't work for anything. But so you might find out you get 1,000 sound effects, and you got to find those 200 that are going to work your daily, that are worth pulling aside just to have as your favorites or whatever.
Yeah. But it's like I've encountered the same thing where it's like, I need a broken glass sound effect, which are the most fun to browse, by the way.
Yeah.
And you go into a library and you're looking for these broken glass sound effects, and there's 30 of them, and none of them really work for what you're looking for except for one.
Yeah.
And it's like, this one works well. Perfect. None of the other ones are going to work at all.
Yeah. And maybe that's because it's specific, or it might be that those other ones are they're very specific to glass break, but it's a window instead of a glass.
Right. Or I need a wine glass and a window.
Yeah, or just whatever it is. But a lot of times, especially those onomatopoeia, those things that are hard to label, to say, like
the swoosh and pows and
zings and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, drones. They're all. How do you search for that? There might be 500 things that come up, so having the time to do that. Just a sideline on all this is the same thing as making a favorites folder of your effects in your video editor. I have like 6 things, but I probably could add 10 more of the effects I always use, so they're just always in this folder, so I don't have to go searching for them each time. Just doing that kind of stuff that sets up, maybe even making templates for projects, for type of work you do on any given your typical work. Just making it so you can open up that project and be getting right into it. Those will save you a lot of time and they will allow you to have the freedom to spend your energy and creativity instead of the technical. I need to find this. I need to put my assets together. Now I have an hour more to be creative than I did before because I just have it all ready already.
Yep. Okay, let's move on to the next topic. Okay? Actually, before we do, I just want to provide some clarification on the Adobe 2-month thing. I looked this up. So it's not related to any kind of promotion. This is if you already have an account and you go threaten to cancel it, they will offer you 2 months. And even then, according to Petapixel, who took a poll on this, not everyone is getting this offer. So
this is like AOL. It used to be, is like, oh, my free hours are coming up. I'm going to go tell them I'm going to quit, and then they're going to give me another free hour.
It's still true that they still have the free trial.
Free trial.
So
So
there you go.
You know what I mean?